Stop the cap.
Oh man, aside from the rant that I just gave, this is going to be a part two. I just listened to the clip of Scott Galloway. He's a professor at NYU, bald white guy. And, he went up there talking about the economic viability of young men. And I've seen, the short MSNBC clip all over the place. And after watching the full clip, I'm just like, I feel like he's like a plant. I feel like he's a release valve, to bring up some of the talking points that the manosphere has been talking about. Um, some of the voices that I would like to see replace, Scott Galloway and his, his lack of understanding, his complete understanding, his lack of ability to really explain. Like he gets close and then like he misses the mark. And the person I would like to see, speaking on the behalf of men would be somebody like Thinking Ape. Or at least somebody up there to challenge what he's saying, the superficiality of the type of solutions that they want to talk about. It's like and I don't know how to get even the average like white um male, to get this, right? Because like first off, most of these conversations are not encompassing all men. It's encompassing white men. The concern is because white men are failing. That's the concern. And it's the same thing with abortion rights and Roe v. Wade. That's because white women aren't having enough babies in order to maintain the white population. But again, the stupid thing is you don't want to pay anybody. You don't want to pay anybody. You don't want to make even white men economically viable, right? And so that's going to create problems. Like Scott Galloway was up there and he was talking about, we need to teach people, financial literacy, like all like just throwing these things out there. Yeah, that would be great if people, were financially literate. But that's not the problem. The problem, and don't get me wrong, like people do need to be financially literate, but that's not the problem. The people back in the 1950s and the 1960s were not all that financially literate. They had jobs that paid. This is where you get the whole mentality of, well, you need to just change your spending habits and then save, save, save. You can't save money that you're not making. The math isn't mathing. The cost of rent, the cost of homes, the cost of food, just the cost of plain and simple being able to survive. And everything that these, white older folks want to talk about, they want to talk about everything. You need Jesus. You need a different orientation in the world. You need to get off of social media. You need to stop watching porn. You need to stop playing video games. They talk about everything instead of getting down to the brass tacks of being gainfully employed and men getting, paid solid wages, reintroduction of unions, pensions, full medical and dental, that type of long-term stability. Okay? They're talking about everything else. And even reading the comments, I left like two comments over there because and I'm telling you, you white young conservatives are fucked in the head. You guys are like, oh, it's Bidenomics. Bidenomics is not why this is happening. White elite men have never wanted to fucking pay you. Look at how this country started. This country started with slaves, slavery. Okay, would you want to be a white man in 1850 looking for a job when everybody essentially has fucking slaves? All the main plantation owners all have slaves. You're trying to, sell your services. Hey, I got a slave for that. What is the difference between a slave and a robot or AI? What is the difference? There is no difference. The fact of the matter is if I have a slave or if I have a robot or if I have AI, right? I don't have to pay anybody. My overhead is next to nothing, right? If I go and I hire, your average white man to work a job, I now have to pay him. I got to give him, freaking a pension, and I got to give him, I got to, what's the other thing? Healthcare, all this other shit. If I got a slave, I don't got to do that, right? If I got robots, I damn sure don't have to do that, right? Or if I got robots integrated with AI, even better. Right? They've never wanted to pay you. Again, slavery, we got slaves. Slavery ends. Shit, what do? Freaking bring in the immigrants, bring in the Irish, right? Then you got the Gilded Age, right? Which was a era of what? Profound economic inequality, right? And then after that, you had, all type of, just, I don't know if it's deregulation, but, the over leveraging that happened during the 1920s, which led to the 1929, freaking financial crash. Then after that, you had the Great Depression. And then the only thing that got America out of the Great Depression was World War II. Then after World War II, then you saw this prosperity that everybody's talking about because the rest of the world had to rebuild. They had to catch up. By the 1980s, they had already caught up, right? But before the 1980s, again, you had, deindustrialization. You had jobs going overseas. The 80s come. They bust up the unions with Reagan. Then in the 90s, you had NAFTA, free trade agreements, get rid of the tariffs, which makes it easier for the companies to manufacture goods elsewhere and then bring in, get their cheap labor and then bring in, those goods and services, for nothing, right? And so you end up with this imbalanced situation where everything is manufactured outside the United States, and slowly over time there's less manufacturing in America. There's less things being produced, right? There's less of the jobs, like I don't want to call them low level jobs, but the jobs that are more like technical and hands on. There's less of those jobs because now people are going to China and they're going to Shenzhen and they're going to Mexico now, right? Because they get to pay those people significantly less wages that nobody could ever survive on in the United States. That is what America is. You gotta look at the trends. You got like a 10-year run, maybe 20-year run maximum in terms of the good old times, and that was between the 1945 until about 1968. That was the good times. After that, you had OPEC, you had freaking, what's the other damn thing? The deindustrialization, the influx of Japanese cars, which, whoa, that sounds great. Oh, cheap, affordable cars and everything else. Yeah, not good for the auto workers. And then again, I think I think it was Ford Motor Company and General Motors. They had stocks in Mitsubishi and I think Suzuki, right? They were helping them. You got the guy Edward Deming, who was a white American man who went to Japan and taught them how to improve their quality control. Hence why Toyota and Honda, have some of the greatest reputations in terms of the quality of manufacturing. In Japan, every year they give out the Deming Award. His name is Edward Deming. Look him up. So people are just no. What people need to understand is they need to understand how the economy works, not just financial. Financial literacy. Financial literacy doesn't mean shit if you're not paying anybody. Nothing from nothing equals nothing. And they keep going up here talk. Oh, this is financial literacy. Oh, you can save, and you can't even get in the game. What do you need to know about the mortgages or interest rates if you can't even get in the game? Oh my God, it's just they want to talk about everything except for fucking wages and paying people. They letting the companies go out of here. Oh, they record profits, all this other shit. The government is supposed to be the advocate of the people, and the government is supposed to reel in the corporations. The corporations right now have the government as their bitch because we have too much money in politics. Think about it, right? The elected officials are supposed to serve you, right? But the elected officials serve the corporations. Why do they serve the corporations? Because the corporations and even APAC, which is a foreign entity, throw money at the politicians so that they can run their campaigns. Then the politicians go up there and then they get you caught up on, these sort of abstractions, things that are never really going to be resolved and constantly float around as a problem, right? Things like the race issue, things like the border, things like immigration, things like reproductive rights for women, things like gun control. That's their favorite, gun control, right? Going back and forth about gun control, trying to get you to be a one-issue voter. That way you don't pay attention to anything else. Hence why they can go and take a bill that's supposed for Ukraine and for fucking Israel and then slip in TikTok in there, the TikTok ban, and slide that in there like the TikTok ban has anything to do with either one of those things. Or actually, technically it does, because again, the whole reason the TikTok ban even happened is because Israel doesn't like the fact that most of the content pertaining to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is pro-Palestine, and that's what they think is affecting young people, as though young people can't make up their own minds. And that's going to be a problem for Israel in the coming years. Israel needs America's forever support, but they're going to have a problem with that if the American populace of the young people who are like in their 20s today, when they're 40 and 50 years old, how are they going to vote? You think that they're going to vote for the politician that's pro-Israel? Probably not. That's why the guy, what's his name, the fucking bald guy from the the ADLU, or no, what is it called? Anti-Defamation League. That's why he went up there talking about we have a major problem, because again, the people in Israel, they think it's a right-left issue, right? Because the boomers and all their Jesus evangelical bullshit and Jesus Christ is going to come back because all nations are attacking Israel and all their spookyism. They support Israel because they're fucking old and they don't know history, none of that shit. And then the young people, they think that the Democrats, don't support Israel because there's a whole bunch of young people in there. But as you can see, Joe Biden and the Democrats, again, it doesn't matter what party it is. Israel throws money at either side, and if they don't support Israel, freaking Israel goes or AIPAC goes and supports their opponent. That's how the shit works. But at the end of the day, they don't support the people, right? Because the people would have to go in there and they would have to actually collectively vote for, a common interest, which should be economics. But everybody else is all split on these other bullshit issues: gun control, women's rights, abortion, gender equality, racial issues, the immigration, all these things. These are the hot button issues, like all the issues that people really feel passionate about. They're hot button issues, and they're meant to be hot button issues. The issues that pertain to shit like the economy, boring, not exciting. Interest rates, boring, not exciting. But you see how it affects you. That shit affects you in your day-to-day life. Being able to afford rent affects you in your day-to-day life. A politician going up there talking about rent control is not sexy, but that affects you more than, the fucking abortions you're not having. Like, even my own mother, I had to check my mother about that shit. She was talking about, because she's pissed off and at the Republicans and taking women's rights away. And I sit there and I'm like, and what abortions are you getting ready to have? You know what I'm saying? What abortions are you getting ready to have? My mother's been had her damn tubes tied, and I think she's missing, part of her uterus. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what abortions are you getting ready to have? You know what I mean? Like, you got people. That's why I took myself out of the abortion conversation. I was having a conversation with Captain Solo one day. I said, wait a minute. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, what bitches am I getting ready to get pregnant? You know what I mean? I'm already taking care of that shit on my end. I'm like, abortion, please. That only comes up, if you're out here being sexually irresponsible and you ain't got no goddamn discipline like Mr. Fit or no, excuse me, Fresh over there. You know what I'm saying? But nah, like at the end of the day, they don't want to talk about jobs. They're going to talk about everything else. You gotta have a sweet twinkle of Jesus in your eye. You gotta get off of the social media. I mean, even where Scott Galloway went up there and said, what the hell did he say? Talked about people not wanting to get a job. If they don't want to get a job, which again, it's just a dumb statement. It's because the job doesn't pay shit. Anytime you hear somebody, like, you'll have these guys that have these small businesses. And every time I hear these guys bitching about, man, nobody wants to work. Man, nobody wants. I'm like, how much you paying them? That's the first fucking question I ask. How much you paying them? Oh, man, $9.75 an hour. I don't see what the problem is. I'm like, can't nobody fucking eat off of that? Fuck out of here. Go get your fucking Mexican immigrant. Go sit your truck in front of Home Depot and get those fucking guys that only plan on being here for a couple of years and then they're gonna go back to Mexico and live like a fucking king. Or they're sending money back to their family that's struggling. You know what I'm saying? Go get them. You see what I'm saying? Like, you always gotta ask that question. Well, how much you paying them? Because these motherfuckers don't want to pay shit. They don't want to pay shit. And people need to understand it. They got people up there. I mean, it's hilarious watching them do it. It's like, okay, you talking, you making sense, you talking, and then I'm sitting there and I watch Scott start skipping to some other bullshit. And this isn't the first time he's done it. I'm like, man, why are they always letting you talk so much? Why out of all the professors, they always letting this nigga up there, talk so much? It's like he comes in with a little bit of truth, and then like the meat of the sandwich is like, it's just a bullshit sandwich. It's like you got truth, like two slices of truth on the outside, and then there's bullshit in the middle. And that's what I keep seeing from Scott. And I'm saying, generally speaking, I like Scott. But Scott always misses the mark because he always tries to go either down some sort of moral principle route, or he tries to go into some other bullshit about, oh, they're looking at too much porn. They wouldn't be looking at fucking porn if they were able to go out there and actually get a chick. And the main issue of why they can't get a chick is because they're not economically viable. Start with the economics, but they don't want to start with the economics. Because again, the hardest thing to do is to create gainful employment for men. And again, the corporations and the companies, in order to keep the economic viability of America, right? Because you would think that there were some people, that are part of the government or whatever that wants to keep America a viable society, but apparently not, because it's like capitalism, rules everything. And I'm like, you're ruining everything. You're going to get exactly it's going to literally be like, think of the deepest, darkest ghetto in America that's filled with black people that you don't want to go into. And that's literally going to spread to the rest of America. It's only a matter of time. People think it's just some sort of black pathology. It's not a black pathology. It's based on prolonged exposure to poverty and a lack of resources. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get a subculture and a street culture. You're going to get that. I'm like, just keep fucking around and keep the society, as such where, young white men can't be economically viable. I mean, this already happened in the freaking 1930s. And then what did you get in the 1930s? You got fucking Al Capone and the mob and all the gangsters and all that other, that's what you got, right? You got the Italian mafia and shit. I'm like, and you're going to see a resurgence of that. Because if you think people are just going to exist, not just go monk, and just sit around, with some spiritual Gregorian chants and shit, like that's not going to happen. Eventually, the white boys are going to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And again, where I do agree with Scott is, yeah, you're going to see, it's a very dangerous population. Unemployed, underemployed, not in a relationship, childless men are very, very dangerous for society. Very dangerous. And again, why do you think the Democrats are pushing gun control so hard? It's really not even just Democrats, it's the Republicans too. They talk all that freedom shit, but every time the parties, the presidential office switches, when the Republicans have every other seat except for the presidency, that's when they want to push some bills. Joe Biden's in office. Now they want to push, all the, we want national reciprocity. You already know the motherfucker's not going to sign this shit. You know what I'm saying? And then the same thing with Trump. That's when the Democrats, they go and they want to do their heavy push on gun control. I'm like, Donald Trump's not going to sign that. Like, so it's always better to have the other party there while you have control of the Senate or vice versa, or control the, the House or the Senate. It's always better that way, because you can always be like, well, we tried, but I mean, the Democrats are blocking us. Oh, well, we tried, but the Republicans are blocking us. Oh, so we couldn't get it passed, right? We'll try next time. Just make sure you come out in November and vote for us. Make sure you come out during the midterm elections and vote for us. You see, because you keep these hot button issues, and I'm telling you, gun control is the perfect one. It's the perfect one, because all they need is a tragedy or something happen. Democrats get to push gun control, to tell the moms demand action, to go out there, and then the Republicans got to come out and try to defend it. It's all right, vote for us to protect the Second Amendment, what I mean? And then the Democrats go out there, and pushing gun. It's perfect. It is a beautiful issue, to keep the masses fucking distracted. It's a beautiful issue, because you can get them to be a one issue voter on that. And then, again, a Republican that owns guns is never going to vote for anything other than the Second Amendment. He's not going to vote Democrat, because he thinks that as soon as Democrats get in, they're going to take his guns. You see what I'm saying? So it's a beautiful, beautiful issue, because then when the Republicans want to vote for shit that's going to be against, a Republican's interest, like economically speaking, right? It's some dumb shit like trickle down economics, which isn't going to affect the average, Republican white person. That white person is like, no, you're not going to take my guns. You know what I mean? So he's going to keep voting for the Republicans. So the Republicans, they can go up there and just do whatever. They can do whatever, even if it's not in the interest of their constituency. Because at the end of the day, that person that owns the guns ain't going to vote for Democrats no matter what. They're not going to vote for them no matter what, because, they ain't taking my AR-15. So these issues, I mean, they're just, they're just perfect. But because of those hot button issues, you're never going to get down to the economics. You're never going to get down to it. And so, when it comes to the young people in America, because we are dealing with, as I said in my other previous rant, a class warfare and age warfare going on right now in America. That is what we're dealing with. And until, folks, put their differences aside and then go up there and vote, in a manner that is, what do you want to call it? That is focused on what is specifically needed, and literally vote these people out when they don't do what they say, and people are charged, and people are out there, protesting, like all the liberal folks do whenever they get excited about some shit. If people ain't doing that, like, when's the last time you saw a protest about jobs or about unions? When the last time you saw anybody protest about that? The closest thing I can remember was Ohio when it came to like teachers' pensions. That was the closest thing that I could think of. But you don't see, nobody's out there promote. Like, if you go back to the 1960s, you would see black men out there with the signs that say "I'm a man," and they would be out there protesting about jobs and working. You would see white men out there with signs, protesting and whatnot, trying to get unionized wages, full medical and dental. Especially towards the in the late 60s going into the 70s, because the companies were trying to gut all that shit. They were trying to get rid of all that stuff. So I'm saying, and then by the 19 late 80s and early 90s, because even Cap got affected by that. He got affected by Cap got wiped out, like, when they had all the buyouts and shit. And he didn't have the tenure to be a part of, or I don't know, to keep whatever money he put in. He lost that shit. You see? So by the time the 90s came, that shit was done. And Cap used to, point out that you would have guys that worked in General Motors, that worked in the plant, and they were thankful that they got in. He was a white guy that Cap used to work with on the line, and the white guy used to always be like, "Yeah, man, but we're the lucky ones, man. You and I, we're the lucky ones." That's what the white guy would say. That was on the line, with Captain Solo. We're the lucky ones, because by that point, I mean, Detroit had already been a declining city by the the early 90s and whatnot. Detroit didn't even become a majority black city until 1980. Right, all the white people, moved out, and because it was declining, the auto industry collapsed, and they had moved a lot of the plants, down south, and a lot of the parts manufacturings, a lot of that went overseas, and so, it's the guy, he had that sort of attitude, like, yeah, we're the lucky ones. And then, Cap also mentioned, older gentlemen, that would basically say, like, we're one of the last ones, the last ones that got, the full medical and dental, had the pension, all that stuff. The new guys coming in, they weren't getting any of that. The last wave of young guys coming into the plant, and it's like, Cap always had an issue with him saying that, because, like, you're not even really thinking about what you're saying. It goes back to that video that I posted a while ago, right when I posted the video about the airport video, where the guy's like, they don't want to pay anybody. They don't want to pay the pilots. They don't want to pay, air traffic control. They don't want to pay the flight attendants, none of that, right? And there was another video where they were talking about, I think it was the Thomas TV factory or something like that. And the principal was asked of the high school, because that's where a lot of people, whose parents worked and whatnot. And they said, what is, what's going to happen to the young guys, after they graduate high school? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, he's like, I don't know what to tell them. It's like, yeah, see, bitch get carjacked. You see, like, when I say bitch get carjacked, like, I know that's going to happen. This is one thing that I like that I do not care about when it comes to morality and moral principles. I'm like, nah, motherfucker, you remove enough, you eliminate enough, and you will see, crime explode. You will see those type of results. I don't care how much white Jesus you want to sprinkle on it. Okay? Instincts are instincts. Motherfuckers got to go out there and do something illegal to get it. He's going to go out there and he's going to fucking do it. Plain and simple. The architects of society, they should understand that. I mean, even with, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was FDR. I forget which president it was that was, or if it was Teddy Roosevelt. One of them was talking about, prevailing wages, right? Livable wages, these sorts of things. They understood. Somehow that got lost in the sauce. Somehow all of that has disappeared. And so now, again, as I've said a million times before, the very same rhetoric that has been used against specifically black men and calling us lazy and we don't do this and don't do that and you need to pull yourselves up by the bootstraps and personal responsibility. Those same exact arguments are now being used against young white men. And y'all are still over there drinking the conservative Snapple. You're still over there believing that you can hard work your way to the top. You still believe in it. You still have faith in the system. You think that if Donald Trump gets in there, that all of a sudden everything's going to magically change. I'm telling you, it's not. That's not the way that this machine works. This system that comes from your people, that's not the way it fucking works. The default economic system coming from white people, coming from Europeans, is feudalism. And capitalism is simply a more advanced version of that. It's actually a more sophisticated and brilliant version of that, because it's like the movie The Matrix, where you don't know that you're in the fucking Matrix. Hence why Andrew Tate calls it The Matrix. You don't know that you're in the Matrix unless you chase the lucky rabbit's foot and whatnot, and you take the red pill. You think that you have this hope that it might could work. It might could work, even though the odds are stacked against me. Right? You guys talk about hard work. How does hard work and personal responsibility work when the people who are wealthy conspire with each other to make sure that they maintain their position and you maintain your position relative to them? How does that work? Break that down to me. You guys you keep running around drinking the Snapple. You keep running around. I read your comments. I see you. You keep running around. Believing that, do we have a racial issue in this country? Absolutely, because of the system of white supremacy and what was specifically done to black people. That doesn't mean that I'm going to shut up about reparations that are owed, to black people. But when you guys talk about, the racial issue, you talk about it from the standpoint that it's just a distraction. I'm like, no. It's very real. It's very real. But the distraction really is on you being focused on that racial issue because of the inequality that black people bring up. And instead of you joining forces with black people and recognizing that you both have the same enemy, you actually end up being the bodyguard of the very system that's fucking you in the ass. You end up defending it. Don't talk about Big Daddy. Don't talk about Zaddy government. Don't talk about our system. I'm like, the system is screwing you over. Please direct me to the black people that are bringing immigrants into the country to undermine, your wages. Please direct me, to the black people, that screwed over, the housing market again in the neighborhoods in which they don't live. Please direct me, to the black people, that basically destroyed, everybody's 401k back in, what was that, 2009, right? Please show me the black people that have anything to do with whether interest rates go up or down. You guys are not paying attention and looking at, the forces that are causing all of this. You guys are sitting around and you're distracted, and then you're allowing people to come in the room and gaslight you, give you a little bit of truth to reel you in, and then totally, just miss the mark on what the problem is. Okay. I get so sick of people coming through talking about, oh, it's Bidenomics when wages have been flat for like the past 50 years. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? How is it Bidenomics if it's been this way for the past 50 years? The issue is the cost of living has spiked, which means that the value of your dollar has gone down. That's what it really means. That's what a lot of you all don't understand. Your purchasing power has gone down. It's not just a matter of, you're not being, paid. It's also your purchasing power. So they don't want to pay you, and your purchasing power, has gone down. Which is why if you look at the prices of things in the past and you look at the prices of things now, it seems crazy. Like you look at the numbers and you're like, oh man, if I could only buy a house for $7,000, but you ignore the fact that the person was only probably making, I don't know, $2,000 a year or something like that. You gotta adjust, for that. So when you do that, then you really get to see that the issue is that the value of the dollar, the purchasing power of the dollar has gone down. The reason why what the wealthy do is they go and they buy assets. They buy things that will go up in value over time because the dollar doesn't. If you take your money and you put it in the bank and you just sit on it, that money will lose value. The bullshit ass interest the bank gives you, that ain't shit. That's why people go out there and they buy real estate and they buy property, because properties have always, historically gone up, but they've never gone up this much. And on top of the fact that not having a cap is retarded, because again, at some point, the whole system is going to break because you have housing that nobody can afford and future generations can't buy into, which has a direct effect on when and if people start families. So all this, it's about this, the assets growing and all this. The system is broken. The system point blank is broken. Because these things can't just grow, in perpetuity. I'm like, because it's even, I even look at like, just, who was I talking to the other day? I was talking to somebody and about the same thing, barbershop talk. And I'm like, okay, you bought your house for X amount of dollars. And then I'm like, okay, and now I'm like, can your own kids buy the house that you live in now? Because if they were starting life to buy the house that you have now, they would have to pay that price. And mind you, the house that you live in now, that you have, that people were like, oh, well, you don't get that house until like you're supposed to get a starter home, a bungalow, and then you graduate to another house, and then you get even a bigger house. And that's not even what this guy did. This is his first house that him and his wife bought. This is essentially, the starter house. A 4-bedroom, 2-car garage house was their starter house. And they've been in it, and the house has gone up astronomically. And I'm like, and your kids couldn't even find a house that is the same square footage as the house you live in now to go start. I don't care if the house is off in the woods somewhere. Obviously location, right? It's important, right? Because like areas, the urban sprawl, you move out to like the edges of a particular area, right? And then over time that area grows, right? That's one of the things that, my parents did. My parents bought in an area that was like, it was like nothing but like farmland. They went and they bought, a home, and then, freaking however many decades later, now it's like, a whole town and a whole township. But it wasn't that way when they first moved out there. So I'm just saying, this whole idea that, boomers are going to be able to cash out. This is where the private equity comes into play. The private equity comes in, and then they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you 30% plus, your selling price. We'll do that. And then we're going to make your children and your children's children and your children's children's children renters. And the boomers are just signing off on that. I mean, just signing off on it. Yeah. That's what I want. No concept of protecting future generations. This is why I say, I'm like, white supremacy. What white supremacy? I'm literally watching white people cannibalize their own children. And I'm saying this in another video, in my rant. This one's probably going to be a lot clearer because my thoughts are laser beam focused right now. and I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm about to stop the video. But I mean, the way the world thinks, the way people think is like really pissing me off, because it's like nobody wants to call the shit out for what the fuck it is. And they get these puppets to go up there on MSNBC and Fox News and CNN to gaslight everybody. I said this in my other rant, because that's all it is. It's a bunch of gaslighting. And the best gaslighters are the ones that come in with a little bit of truth. They give you that olive branch. They bring you in, and you're like, yeah, that's true. And then they hit you with the bullshit. They hit you with the bullshit. It's like somebody starts a sentence off with the economic viability of young men, and then they end the sentence off with like, and the real reason men aren't getting married is because, they're just intimidated by a woman's success, or something like that. Meanwhile, the women are like, I'm not dating anybody that doesn't make $300,000 a year. Somehow that has nothing to do with why the young men are not getting married. Right? It's all about their intimidation. It has nothing, like, whether intimidated or not, if he's not making that type of money, he can't enter the space. I mean, just nuts, man. I mean, just nuts. And isn't it crazy how, like, all of, like, the soft girl era and women making, it all happens right as the economy goes to shit. Right? Like the worse the economy gets, the more ridiculous women's demands get. Like even if the economy was booming, their what they're looking for would be ridiculous, right? But now that it's shit, now they're like, oh yeah, let's I'm only dating a man that has a yacht. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? It's so I am like too through with this country. It's like the smartest, dumbest idiots in the world. And these are the people that run the country. These are the people that run the country, and they all subscribe to these sort of like just nonsensical, doesn't apply in today's world, just talking points and rhetoric about hard work and personal responsibility. See, young man, if you want a job, what you gotta do is you gotta type out a resume, and then you take it, and then you put it in an envelope, and then whatever job you want to go to, you open up the yellow pages, and then you go and you find out where the main office is, and then you walk in through the front door, and then you ask, who Mr. is Mr. Johnson available, and then you give your resume to the secretary, and then you say, tell him to give me a call, and then in 2 weeks' time he's going to give you a call, and then you have an interview, and then you get the job. Like what type of fucking boomer talk is this? And literally they will tell you some bullshit like that with a straight fucking face. They'll sit there and say some shit like that. Oh my God. And that's just that. Then you go into all the other shit. They'll be telling stories about their life. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I met John F. Kennedy, and in 1974, and you're sitting there like, John F. Kennedy was assassinated, but way before 19. What are you talking about, my guy? Like, bro, they just make shit up, and it's like, I have the power of the space shuttle in my hand. I have Chat GPT. I have Anthropic. I have Cloud 3. I can literally look up what you're saying in real time and get a full essay explanation that is specifically tailored to exactly the details that I want to fucking know. And you're sitting here telling me your old fucking pirate sea stories and just, bro, like, somebody retire these dinosaurs that are running the fucking country. You know what I'm saying? Can we please just put the differences aside for 5 seconds to get these assholes the fuck out of here? Please. Oh my God. Anyway, that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.